Oh, I've got a great idea. I'm gonna start firing the old timers.
What? Not just me, but other employees were stunned by Katie's department head words.
A firing is a firing. I've always thought it having an old man like you around the office makes the place stink with your old person smell.
Understood. A firing is fine with me. I've got some work to hand over, so can I resign at the end of the month? When I said that, Katie snorted dismissively.
All the work you do is just minor stuff anyway. Don't bother coming and starting tomorrow.
Katie spat those words at me. Understood. I sighed softly and answered. The day after my resignation, my junior colleague John called me.
Hey, Richard, how's it going? This morning, Katie went to a meeting, but...
Here's what John said. Today was a day for a business meeting I was responsible for.
Who's in charge of this $7 million deal?
Realizing that the meeting was today, Katie had apparently been shouting that morning.
You fired them yesterday, manager.
John coldly remarked.
Well, then I'll go.
She hurried off to the meeting. From that point, I could predict how things would play out without needing to hear more. Katie finally realized the seriousness of what she'd done. I'm Richard Hart, a 65-year-old company employee. Our company is a fairly large electronics manufacturer in the industry, with branches overseas as well. I joined this company at 35 and have been working here for 30 years. I recently turned 65 and will be retiring at the end of this fiscal year. I'm assigned to the sales department. I've been in this department since joining the company and have gotten to know most of our clients well. Fortunately, our clients are very supportive and are saying they want to throw a big farewell party for my retirement. Before joining this company, I worked in a completely different field. It was a job that I mostly did alone. When I first joined this company, I wasn't great at communicating, and I knew I was inconveniencing others. However, the staff at our company is very kind, and I've felt comfortable here. Last year, the previous head of the sales department, who was a year older than me, retired, and Katie, a woman, was newly appointed as head. Katie had been working at our overseas branch and occasionally mehays foreign languages into her conversations. All our employees are top-notch and can handle her English, but I can't speak it at all. So whenever she speaks Spanish to me, I can't even force a smile, and she clicks her tongue at me, which became a regular pattern.
Don't worry about it. Katie only wants to show off her language skill. But it's no big deal here, since everyone can speak it.
That's what John, one of the employees, says to reassure me. At 30, he's the young ace of our sales department and is highly trusted by other departments. Thanks, but I'm probably the only one in sales who can't speak Spanish. The sales department frequently travels abroad and conducts business meetings internationally. Therefore, one of the requirements for joining the department is to be able to speak second or third languages. However, I'm nearing retirement without ever mastering the language.
Richard, you don't need to worry about that. If you have to negotiate with overseas clients, I'd be happy to step in as an interpreter.
Actually, I've had several business meetings with foreign clients before. At that time, an employee fluent in English sat in as an interpreter with me. Since John and other colleagues said so, I tried not to take Katie's words to heart, but her harsh attitude towards me kept escalating.
Please compile and submit these documents by tomorrow.
Saying that, Katie handed me a huge stack of papers. Well, I was speechless at the sheer volume. In the first place, this company has gone digital, and most of the work is done on computers, not paper. So, it's rare to see such a large amount of paperwork. Moreover, it was already 30 minutes before the end of the workday, and if I had to compile this by tomorrow, what time would I be able to go home today? Seeing me stunned, Katie grinned.
I want to include this in tomorrow's meeting materials, but the documents are too old and only exist in paper form. Compile and digitize them and submit them first thing in the morning.
Finishing this amount by tomorrow morning is a bit. I hadn't seen the contents yet, but it definitely wasn't something that could be done in an hour or two.
What, are you saying you can't do it? If an old geezer nearing retirement thinks he can just sit around and get paid, he's got it all wrong. If you're so sickly that you need to take off work multiple times a week, you should consider early retirement. Old men can't use computers, so I'm giving you analog work to do. Anyway, you must have these materials ready by tomorrow.
With that, Katie left and returned to her desk.
Wow, that's awful, Richard. I'll help you out.
John, sitting at the next desk and overhearing our conversation, whispered to me. No, John, you just had a baby. You should go home early.
But Richard, you have things to do at home too. It's fine. If I call on the guys in the department, everyone will gladly help.
John said this confidently. Thank you. I thanked him. The next morning, Katie's eyes widened in surprise at the submitted data materials.
Did you really finish it? This isn't some half-baked report, right?
Probably not expecting it to be done, Katie checked the data with a frustrated expression and fell silent. In the end, after Katie left at the end of the workday yesterday, everyone in the department really helped with the report, and it was finished in an hour. The data materials created by our company's excellent employees were nothing short of perfect. Instead of a half-baked report, it was a flawless one. Katie clicked her tongue.
Well, this is the least you should do.
She glared at me and spat the words out. I sighed with relief and returned to my work. A few days later, Katie was in an especially bad mood.
Richard, go buy some coffee.
Katie suddenly yelled at me, and when I stood there stunned, she threw a pen at me.
Get it in 5 minutes.
She yelled even louder.
Hey!
I'll go get it. I stopped John, who was about to stand up, and got up from my seat. Katie's bad mood was a monthly occurrence. At first, everyone in the office was surprised, but once we realized it was due to her cyclical hormonal imbalances, we decided to just tolerate it. I hurried to the coffee shop on the first floor of the building to buy her coffee. However, there was a line at the coffee shop, and it took about 10 minutes before I could deliver the coffee to Katie. Sorry for the delay. I handed the coffee to Katie, out of breath, and she glared at me.
You're late, useless idiot.
She shouted and threw the hot coffee at me. Ouch. Caught off guard, I couldn't dodge, and the coffee splashed all over me.
Come on.
John stood up, unable to hold back, and rushed over.
Are you okay? You need to cool it down immediately.
John anxiously checked my burn. My arm, covered in coffee, was red and swollen.
Just leave that old man. We'd be better off without such a useless person in the company.
Katie said this nonchalantly, completely indifferent to my burn.
You'd better cut it out.
John glared at her, looking like he was about to pounce.
John, you're talented, but you're fond of this old geezer. Oh, I've got a great idea. Let's fire this old nuisance.
What? Not only I, but also John and the other employees were stunned by her words. What do you mean, fire?
Fire means fire. I've always thought having someone like you in the office makes it smell like old age.
I'm not aware of any body odor, but if she wants to talk about smells, Director's strong perfume is just as bad.
What are you talking about?
John finally snapped, grabbing Katie by the collar and yelling at her.
Stop it. Do you want to be fired too, John? You know our company gives department heads the authority to decide on dismissals.
John, that's enough. Thank you. When I patted John on the shoulder, he looked at me with tears in his eyes. Yes, I understand. I'll accept being fired. I have some handover to do, so is it okay to leave at the end of the month? When I said that, Katie snorted.
No need for a handover. Your work is all small stuff anyway. Don't bother coming in tomorrow.
Katie spat those words at me. Understood. I sighed softly and answered. The day after I was fired, I was at a cafe near my home. Even though I didn't need to go to the office, I still had things to do. I was working on my laptop when my phone rang in the late afternoon. Looking at the screen, it was John. I wondered if there was a problem with my work and answered the call. Hello, what's up?
Richard, I'm so sorry to bother you. This morning, Katie went to a meeting, but
John explained the situation. Today was the day of a major meeting I was supposed to handle.
Who's in charge of the $7 million deal?
Katie had realized this morning that there was a meeting scheduled and was shouting.
You fired him yesterday, remember?
John coldly reminded her.
Then I'll go myself.
She had rushed to the meeting, thinking she could handle it easily.
She thought it would be easy without you, but the clients got really mad when you weren't there and said they're canceling all contracts. We knew this would happen, but that woman.
John muttered, clearly frustrated. Oh well. I responded with a dry laugh. So, what should I do?
You'd help us.
John sounded surprised. If this was a call from Katie, I wouldn't do anything, but if you're in trouble, I'll do whatever I can. You've got a big meeting with this client next month, right? If this deal fell through, the one next month would surely be canceled too. I knew better than anyone how many hours John had spent preparing for that meeting.
Thank you so much.
No need to thank me. I hung up and headed straight to the office. When I arrived, the office was in an uproar. The CEO of the company we had the meeting with today, Michael Hartland, was shouting in the office, and Katie was desperately trying to calm him down.
What kind of company fires someone like Richard?
Calm down. I can handle the negotiations.
Shut up.
As I stood there, stunned by the situation, John noticed me and ran over.
Richard, sorry to trouble you.
Oh, it's no trouble at all, but what on earth is going on?
Well,
John began to explain, looking weary. Michael heard from the person in charge that I wasn't at the meeting, and then found out from Katie that I had been fired as of yesterday. Infuriated by the fact that I had been fired, Michael barged into the office, demanding to see the president. I nodded in understanding. Michael. I called out loudly enough for Michael to hear me over the commotion.
Oh.
Michael turned around in surprise, and his face lit up when he saw me.
Richard, oh, it's an honor. I've wanted to meet you for so long. I read your latest work last month, and it was fantastic.
Michael rushed over to me, extending his hand for a handshake, which I returned. He excitedly began to share his thoughts on my latest work.
What's going on?
Katie stood there, stunned by Michael's sudden change in demeanor, muttering to herself.
Isn't he just some old man near retirement? What? Latest work?
Michael glared at Katie.
Watch your language. This man is one of America's most renowned authors.
What?
Katie was dumbfounded by Michael's words.
An author? This old man?
Seriously, get a grip.
John glared at Katie, gritting his teeth.
Richard has won numerous prestigious literary awards and has written scripts for movies and TV shows. He's still at the forefront of American literature.
I almost laughed at how it sounded like a promotional blurb. Michael nodded enthusiastically.
Richard's stories are truly wonderful. He writes everything from beautifully descriptive tales to gripping mysteries. He has a lot of international fans too. That book that was recently made into a movie was fantastic.
Yes, I understand.
Michael and John were engrossed in their fan discussion, with no sign of the earlier commotion. Katie finally began to understand the situation.
Why is an author doing sales at this company?
She asked, frowning. At first, the company approached me, originally an author, to write a success story book about the company. At that time, I was in a slump and couldn't write novels. I was struggling financially, so I decided to take on writing projects that weren't novels. Previously, my pride prevented me from accepting projects like column writing, but the timing of the offer, when I was desperate, made me take it. The success story book was a big hit and won awards. The CEO liked me a lot and suggested I work as a salesperson while continuing my writing career. I took a couple of days off each week to focus on writing. The CEO's words, allowing me to take as many breaks as I needed, were a blessing, so I took one day off every 2 days. Over the years, the rumor that I was both a company employee and an author spread, and I even received several magazine interviews. The catchphrase, wearing two hats as an employee and an author, became my nickname.
Richard writes scripts for TV dramas and movies and shares behind-the-scenes stories. Those stories are incredibly interesting, and many companies request meetings just to meet him.
I simply share my experiences, but the clients often find them hilarious.
We've told Richard many times that the rest of us could handle the meeting prep and that he only needed to be present at the meetings. But he always insisted on doing the preparation himself. Richard's dedication impresses the clients, leading them to offer high-value deals.
At first, it was supposed to be just a few hours a week, but for someone who had been working alone, the time at the company was a great change of pace. The work was challenging but fun, and it opened up new worlds to me, positively reflecting in my writing. Since joining the company, my work has sold explosively. I became an author at 24 and was initially praised as a genius, but then I hit a slump and couldn't write as I wanted. It was then that the company CEO's offer came, and he suggested I work there, thinking that even if my writing career failed, I could still support my family. The change in environment helped me start writing again, and my work gained even more recognition than before. The employees here are all excellent, far above my level, but they always support my work. If I have meetings abroad, they rearrange schedules to come along as interpreters. It's truly a great workplace.
There were several times when overseas clients insisted on meeting Richard. Despite his busy writing schedule, We tried to handle it with other employees, but the clients wouldn't budge.
John chuckled, reminiscing.
But the contract amount at that time was amazing. What was it, $560 million? It was the highest amount in the company's history.
What?
Katie exclaimed in surprise at John's words.
A $560 million contract 4 years ago.
Yes, you might remember it since you were working in Spain at that time, Katie.
No way.
Katie muttered, stunned.
The client that made that contract is the largest home builder in France. Our branch couldn't even get $1 from them despite our efforts, but a Japanese salesperson secured a $560 million contract. Was that really you?
Yes, it was indeed a home builder. I remember being surprised by how huge their office was. John sighed dramatically at Katie, who couldn't hide her shock.
Katie, you're probably the only one in this company who doesn't know about Richard. He writes under his real name and often appears on TV. I've always wondered how you never noticed. Richard didn't want to say anything, though.
It's a bit embarrassing to bring it up myself. I scratched my head, feeling awkward.
But now you understand, right, what Richard means to this company. He's retiring at the end of this fiscal year, and many clients are lining up for a final meeting with him.
This year, I plan to repay the company by prioritizing my attendance at work and handling as many meetings as possible while scaling back my writing.
Yet you decided to fire Richard on your own. That's just not acceptable.
John glared at Katie as he spoke.
Well, I didn't know that. How was I supposed to know?
Katie snapped, frustrated with the criticism.
If this old man is so important, just bring him back. I'll tolerate it.
I couldn't understand how she could still be so condescending.
Of course, that's the plan.
John replied, clearly irritated.
I've talked to the CEO about everything. Richard will return to the company, and Katie, you're fired.
What?
Katie furrowed her brow at John's words.
Fired? What kind of joke is this?
She seemed to think it wasn't serious, half laughing.
It's not a joke. When I told the CEO about what happened, he was furious. Considering the CEO personally recruited Richard because he admired him, it's only natural.
Katie was speechless and stunned.
If you're here, Richard won't come back. It's understandable that you get frustrated every month, but throwing coffee at someone is unacceptable.
John was absolutely right. Yesterday, I had to go to the hospital for treatment, and my burn still hurt.
When I asked the CEO whether he would choose you or Richard, he said Richard without a moment's hesitation. It's obvious, really.
But this old man is retiring in a few months. How could he choose him over me? I'll ask the CEO myself.
Katie shouted and tried to leave the office.
You'd better not.
John stopped her with his words.
The CEO was so angry he said he didn't want to see your face. If he does, who knows what he might do.
Our CEO is excellent at his job but can be quite fiery and has had several confrontations with employees. He was known for his strength, having attended a notorious high school for delinquents. Hearing John's words, Katie's face turned pale.
Then, what should I do?
What can you do? You're fired.
John replied, looking exasperated.
Richard has contributed more to this company in a few months than you have. And regarding the hot coffee incident, we're pressing charges for assault.
What?
I was surprised too, hearing this for the first time, and looked at John. Michael, who had been silent, glared at Katie as if to say, "Did you really do that?"
Of course. Did you think you could get away with throwing hot coffee at Richard? It's like vandalizing a World Heritage Site.
John gritted his teeth in frustration.
My brother is a top lawyer, and he's handling Richard's case. Don't worry about the cost. My brother is a huge fan of you.
John said excitedly, barely pausing for breath.
When I told him about this, he was furious. He plans to demand unprecedented compensation from Katie.
I couldn't help but smile at how passionate John was. His brother seemed quite impressive, graduating from the world's best university. Katie stood there, stunned, but John completely ignored her.
Michael, I'm sorry to keep you waiting. I'd like to go apologize to the client now. Could you come with me?
Of course, I'll speak on your behalf.
Michael, clearly pleased with how things had turned out, nodded with a broad smile.
Richard, will you come with us?
Of course. I nodded in agreement. Katie would likely spiral into further disgrace on her own. After getting ready, I left with John and Michael to visit the client. When we went to apologize, having Michael with us helped, and the contract cancellation was quickly rescinded. Moreover, Michael was so impressed with John that he signed a contract with him before the meeting, a surprising turn of events that made both John and me jubilant as we returned to the office. I then went to the CEO's office to explain everything in detail, but I was genuinely surprised when the CEO started crying as soon as he saw me.
I couldn't even eat, thinking you might actually leave,
he said through tears, making me laugh. Katie was immediately fired, and the news quickly spread through the industry. Even though she was fluent in English and had a good track record, no company in the industry would hire her after this. Regarding the assault charges, John's brother returned home and was working on the case. His return even made it to a small news article online, reminding me of how remarkable the John brothers were. The first trial was approaching, and John warned me not to be shocked by the compensation amount. Katie couldn't find another job. Her husband filed for divorce, and she was kicked out of her home. There were rumors she squandered her savings on hosts.
It'd be wise to hold on to every penny.
John muttered. As for me, I recently had the chance to drink with John and his brother. John's brother, much like John, passionately talked about his love for my work, making me feel both embarrassed and happy.
Richard, do you remember the book you wrote about how my wife and I met and got married?
John had married 8 years ago, shortly after starting his job. I thought about what I could do for John and decided to write a nonfiction story with him and his wife as the main characters, which I then had bound and gave to him.
I was so happy. I never imagined Richard, who I always admired, would write a book for me.
John said this, teary-eyed, but it was actually me who was truly saved by him. I had no confidence in my past works. I felt they only sold because of the recognition from winning a major award early on, and I even begged my editor to let them go out of print. However, when I first met John, he shared his thoughts on all my works in the order they were published. When I became a writer, John hadn't even been born yet, but he told me he had been a fan since reading my debut work in elementary school. John's words affirmed my identity as a writer, and for the first time, I felt glad to be a writer. Grateful for meeting John, I will continue living as a writer for as long as time allows, even after retirement.